Hello and welcome to our weekly boxing chat on Sky Sports News. I'm Andy Scott, and joining me this week is former WBA super middleweight champion George Groves and current IBF, WBO and Ring Magazine super bantamweight world champion Ellie Scotney. Now, we'll be talking to both of you very, very shortly, but I'm delighted to say that Hall of Fame promoter Frank Warren joins us live from Saudi Arabia. Frank, great to see you out there. We will be talking 5v5, which is Matchroom versus Queensberry. But while we've got you, just want to quickly talk a little bit about Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk and where we are at the moment. Have you spoken to Tyson? How are his spirits? And have we reached an agreement yet for the rematch? And if so, when?
I haven't spoken to him for a few days now, but I spoke to him after the fight, and obviously when he got back, just to make sure he's okay. He was very disappointed, but very philosophical, and he just kept saying to me he wanted the rematch. The rematch was signed before the fight took place. The first fight took place anyway, and that date will be set, I think, within the next month or so. Both fighters said they want it, and we'll go from there. But it was a fabulous fight. Two absolute creators who didn't leave anything in the ring in an epic fight for the four belts, most important fight of the 21st century. And I thought a very, very close fight. And I think we can get even a bigger one next time. It's going to be a much, much bigger event next time around. Yeah,
it was a heavyweight classic and it was a privilege to watch it. What's the situation with the belts? If you could make it again towards the back end of this year, the IBF title situation continues to be talked about. I know Usyk has made a plea to the IBF to make sure that he isn't stripped. So if they do the rematch, it would be for undisputed again. What's your understanding of that?
Well, at this moment in time, Usyk couldn't defend the title even if he wanted to, because he was being suspended by the commission because of because it was such a tough fight, as has been Tyson. They've been told not to do anything, spar or anything for I think it's a 45-day suspension. So until that suspension ends, nothing can happen by the IBF.
Do you think Tyson can make the necessary adjustments to win that rematch? And if so, like you've seen more fights than if I live twice, I will see. But do you think he can make those minor adjustments to make sure that it's his hand raised?
Yeah, I think he can. He believes he can. I mean, the truth of the matter is, there was a point in the fight, I think it was the end of the 6th or 7th round, when he caught Usyk with a couple of really good uppercuts. And he was struggling a bit, but he went back to the corner and he found a second wind and came out, and he caught Tyson with a really good punch on his nose, and it seemed to have troubled Tyson a bit. It took his momentum away, maybe his bit of concentration. And obviously we all know then what happened in the 9th round. But it was a fight of two halves, and Tyson knows what he has to do, and I'm sure Usyk does. But both of those guys were in an absolute war. That has taken a lot out of both of them, and it'd be interesting to see when this fight does happen, who it's affected the most.
Let me move things forward, which is the reason that you're back out in Saudi Arabia at the moment. 5v5, so it's Queensberry, so Frank Warren against Matchroom, Eddie Hearn. This must be fraught with danger. You desperately don't want to lose to Eddie, do you?
No, and vice versa. And look, it's a great concept. It was suggested by His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, who's the chairman of the Riyadh season and has made most of these things happen here. And we've got 5 cracking fights. They're very, very evenly matched. Most of them are 50-50. Maybe one of them's a 60-40 fight, but they're great fights. And I can assure you, none of the fighters want to get beat. They all want to win because they know the wins, what's happening when you're getting wins out here, what it leads to. You get into even bigger fights. And obviously, as professional boxers, you earn more money. And from our perspective, as a company, we want, Queensberry, we want to win this. We this everything is on the line for us. We want the bragging rights.
If I could ask you for your favourite matchup, which is unfair because you're going to upset someone in the stable, but which is the fight that the fans should most be looking forward to, and which is the fight that you're most looking forward to?
I've got to tell you something, and it's not I'm not being evasive. Every fight's a great fight. Every fight has a story. I'm looking forward to all of them because they've all got to win. You know, the way the points are scored, that a captain can get 2 points, you get 2 points for a win. All of them must be winnable fights. And when the weights were selected, we put in, both sides, put in the best fighters we had available to ensure that both of us would win. And that's what's so good about this. I mean, you know, Hamza Shiraz, our captain, he's in a tough fight. Daniel Dubois is in a tough fight with Hrgovic, and Hrgovic is in a tough fight. Nick Ball should be a world champion anyway. He got robbed last time out. He's getting another chance to fight for a title, again in a tough fight. You got Big Bang Zhang against Deontay Wilder. Wilder didn't look too good last time out. For one of those, they'll be right down the pecking order. Maybe their career will be over. So neither of them can afford to lose. And we got a real domestic bust up between our man from Scotland, the chef. He's in there, and Willie's got tough. Willie is in a tough fight, but again, it's a very, very bit winnable fight for him. So every fight is a meaningful fight. If you're a fight fan, do not miss it, because you're going to see a cracking night of boxing between two big rival promotional companies which have a rivalry that goes back 5 decades.
Well, we could listen to you talk about it all day, but unfortunately I've got to move on. But it has been great to chat, Frank, and wish you all the best. Fingers crossed you get their bragging rights over Eddie Hearn, otherwise he really will be unbearable.
Look, we're going to give him a rematch, don't worry.
Okay, best of luck, Frank. Thanks for talking to us. So that was Frank Moran out there. That's the Matchroom card against Queensberry. Good to see you both in studio. Let's rewind, just a slight diversion. Let's rewind to this past Friday. So Lawrence Okolie, your former gym mate, both of your former gym mates, he was in action in Poland against Lukasz Rozanski. Stopped the hometown fighter in 1 round to claim the WBC Bridgerweight title. George, that was emphatic for Lawrence. And truth be told, he wouldn't mind me saying this, he probably needed that.
Yeah, he would have needed it. Obviously, it was almost a year to the day, wasn't it, since he lost his title against Billam-Smith. And since then, he's changed trainer, he's changed weight division, and he's now up at Bridgerweight. But it was a brilliant performance from him, almost punch perfect. And this is what Lawrence does so well. You know, dropped back off that back leg, created a space, the big right hand comes over, and then from there on in, it's one-way traffic. He gets two more knockdowns before the fight is halted. And the last one, which we hopefully will get to see, the right uppercut, it comes through the guard. Fantastic shot.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to let the champion go out on his shield, but this was wallop. Yeah, pretty emphatic, to be honest. But the celebration, I'll bring in Ellie Scotney underneath these pictures. It was nice to see a smile on Lawrence Okolie's face. What do you think he does next? Does he stay around at Bridger? And you talk about maybe some of the lighter heavyweights entertaining that division. I think he's got a mandatory against Kevin Lerena, who we saw actually in Saudi Arabia boxing at heavyweight. What do you think he does?
I believe he'll stay around. I think, he wanted to feel how his body would feel at that new weight. I think the fights for him, which will get everyone excited and looking at lips, is obviously at heavyweight. But I think he wants to, see how his body reacts. And I think he'll probably try to defend that once and be successful and then move on to the bigger and better names.
If you were playing promoter, Frank Warren's just been talking about all these fantasy matches. If I said to you, you could make one match at Bridger or heavyweight, some of the names that were flying around, Usyk's name was flying around. I think George hinted that Wilder has the frame that he could come down to Bridger if Lawrence didn't go up. Which way would you go?
I'm edging towards, the body snatcher. I think stylistically it's a great fight for Lawrence. And
Dillian White.
Yeah, and I believe that, it'd capture the British audience, and I think it'd be the perfect sort of style for Lawrence to look great against.
While we're talking about, people in and around your stable, let's talk about Billam-Smith. So, George said there, it's almost a year ago. He defends next time out against Richard Riakporhe in a rematch. That's going to be quite nice for you, isn't it? Because you're die-hard Crystal Palace fan, so you get to watch Chris Billam-Smith defend his world title at your home ground. You've let him.
I've let him have that one. He took one for the team, and what a night it will be. You know, I'm firmly on the subs bench, so I'm not saying I'll jump in at cruiserweight, but
leave that to George.
Yeah,
and I
will leave that to. You'd probably have to do a sweat out, wouldn't you?
Oh, hold on.
But honestly,
I'm not catching strays here.
I thought we was talking about Bridgerweight.
he's a gentleman, and I think he's everything but a gentleman in the ring, and he thrives off a night like this, and I'm really excited to see him, you know, avenge that one blemish on his record.
You're very close with Chris Billam-Smith, George. Richard does hold that win from back in 2019, yet understand that they both improved since and both changed, like subtle changes in style. But how much of an improvement have you seen in Chris, particularly under Shane McGuigan?
Well, he's one of the most improved fighters in Britain, I would say. And, you know, going back to this fight with Riakporhe, where it ended up ultimately being a close fight. I thought Riakporhe was the worthy winner and he got a decision. But, you know, what Chris does well at this point in his career is he just brings that relentless energy. He's always willing to stand within range and let his hands go. And since then, he's just tightened up, you know, his boxing ability. He sits in his legs much better. He looks like he punches so much more harder than he used to because his form is that much better. But Richard Riakporhe as well has made those improvements. You know, hasn't really put a foot wrong. He's had a bit of time, you know, out of the ring. It's been not stop-start, but his career obviously hasn't flown as well as Chris Billam-Smith's has, but now is his opportunity. He is exactly where Chris Billam-Smith was a year ago. He's got home advantage in a football stadium, taking on the world champion. It's almost a carbon copy of what Chris Billam-Smith had to do a year ago fighting Lawrence Okolie. Chris rose to the occasion. He got that win. He's had that defence since, which is usually sometimes, and we spoke about it before, where after a massive win, you usually have a bit of a come-down fight after. He's had that out of the way. He knows the importance and the significance of this fight with Riakporhe, so he's got to be up for it. Riakporhe the same. Now's his chance. I think it just paints a picture for a fantastic fight, one that we all should be extremely excited about. One of the best sort of British dust-ups we might get this year.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to give the podcast away because I actually want people to go and listen to it, Ellie. But on the podcast, you were very, very clear that you think that Chris Billam-Smith not only wins, but you think that Chris Billam-Smith stops Richard Riakporhe. Why so confident?
I just believe, you know, the fighter that they shared a ring before, I think it's a completely different Chris. And when you compare who they've boxed since, I think he's had the questions asked of him, Chris, and he's rose to the occasion. He knows what it's like to be a world champion. He's going into his backyard and he knows what avenging this loss will do to his story. And I just believe, I think it'll get him out of there.
You are good with dates, George, I think, aren't you?
Trying.
We're going to go.
What if I said
to the
you,
casino, are you?
What if I said to you 7 years ago, yesterday?
Oh, yes. I did a post to that, believe it or not. I'm leading into that every now and again.
I didn't know if it was you or social
No,
media.
this.
He's a big time now.
Big time. No, 7 years ago, yesterday, I, at the fourth attempt, fulfilled a childhood dream and became the WBA super middleweight champion of the world. Which was lovely, which was great, which was a big relief.
Let's remind ourselves, look at this.
So this is against Fedor Chudinov, outdoors in a football stadium at Bramwell Lane. And yeah,
you can really punch though. And when he, like I don't know that. I know that from watching your career. I don't know.
Right,
that.
okay.
I haven't felt it. But I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you here. And did you realise that it was coming true at this point? You know, you can't stand up to these right hands, even though he was at this point. You know it was coming. Yeah.
Well, at this point it was. I'm just going to keep punching now until they turn the lights out. You know, until it's time to go home. I'm not going to let Chudinov off the hook if he is indeed, in fact, on the hook. I couldn't tell, to be frankly sure positive, because I've liked to back myself as a bit of a puncher. I've never hit anyone so consistently, so frequently, and then just sort of stand in front of me. Usually they go down, And I've faced some guys with some great chins before, and they usually go down. But
I know that feeling.
yeah, I haven't punched you, Ellie.
I just mean big punches. We've got it in common.
Yeah, so not everyone will know that joke at home. So Ellie, I don't want to throw you under the bus here, but what is your record?
100% points. That's what we do. I get paid per round, so
yeah. And
I'll
what I
go
would
the
say is
distance.
we haven't even spoken about the fact that you got 2 world titles plus the Ring magazine belt. You know, you're
history.
She is a phenomenal fighter. When first time I saw Ellie Scotney,
I have to pay him a tenner now.
No. I was very excited. I was like, wow, she can fight. She can fight. And she's just still improving, still making those adjustments that are just mesmerising to see. She's going to run out of opponents soon. But she also is just a delight for the punter because she never stops them early. She gives you the entire show.
Yeah, your money's worth. Is Undisputed the dream for you? And a realistic dream?
Yeah, for sure. You know, there's 2 belts left, and that's all I'm focused on right now. So one at a time.
Whoever can answer the quickest, I just want to make sure that we don't gloss over it. Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall scoring controversy at the weekend, but I think everybody is unanimous in the fact that the right man won. How frustrating is it that scorecards are, again, overtaking what was a great fight for British fight fans?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I've got to be honest, I watched the fight. I didn't have it in front of me. I wasn't ringside, but I watched the fight with no sound, and I had it wide for Catterall. Some of them rounds were close, but I was always giving them to him when they were close, I think. And you try and judge a fight as how you see it. There's no biasness there. So, but then Bob Arum jumps in the ring. He's seen a few fights in his time, and he says he's never bringing a British fighter back to UK shores ever again because Josh should have won. The general consensus is that Josh didn't win, that Jack Catterall won. I think the debate over the scorecards might just be a bit of fun now.
Well, it clouds what was a great fight, and it takes 2 to tango. So congratulations to Jack for getting his revenge, but also for Josh for being involved in a fight like that. Now, I wish we could talk longer, but that is all we've got time for this week. So thank you very much for coming in, Ellie, and we'll see you at Selhurst Park, albeit on the subs bench. And George, thanks very much to you as well. We'll be back next Tuesday with more special boxing guests, so make sure you join us then.